Hi guys, if it's Tuesday, it's Down and Dirty Woodscraft. Stay with me. Okay guys, today we're going to talk about the cooking fire, the campfire. But first, I owe you a little demonstration. A few Down and Dirty Woodscrafts ago, I talked about how to make my aluminum foil baker with tent stakes and some aluminum foil and some sticks. And I said you put a Siberian log fire in front of it. And many of you asked for a quick demonstration, so here is a demonstration. Okay guys, here is the Siberian log fire demo that you had asked for. What I've done is I've got a base log right here. Across the top I have built a pile of sticks. Now I built a basic fire up here on the front edge coming up, and then I put long sticks up here on top. Now I can just scoot these sticks forward to control my fuel. By scooting them up, I get more into the fire or not, and therefore I can control how much heat goes into my little baker right there. Now the wind's coming sideways, so I'm not losing much heat, but I can adjust how much heat by going forward or back on it. And this heat is going to catch all the coals right there and reflect underneath the bottom. Now I turn this about every 10 minutes to bake it. Very simple, very easy. Okay, now that fire works very good for what it's being used for. In a big setup, it's a great way to throw heat to a sleeping area, thus the Siberian log fire. It also works very well as a radiant cooking fire, like you've seen there, where I want to cook with an even adjustable heat, and I want it to be regulated, like if I'm roasting meat. I don't want a big flare up, I don't want a lot of heat, I want the heat projecting onto it. So by putting that Siberian wall here and projecting forward and adjusting the sticks, I can regulate how much heat. And as my coals fall down, I keep that heat source rolling in, so I keep it as a working fire. It makes a really good fire for roasting meat on slowly, where you're going to be doing a lot of basting. I want this meat to cook for 6 hours, not 2 hours. That's a good fire for it because I keep a constant heat on it that's not very high. I'm baking breads and things that could go flash heat real quick and could therefore burn. So I'm trying to limit that. That fire is very good for it. But in the cooking fire mindset, I want to set up an area right here to cook. Well, what's the most down and dirty, quickest fire to set up? That's the simple hunter's fire. And all it is in English is you're going to have a log, a little bit of a gap, and another log, usually at a slight V angle. That's because I'm going to sit right here, my cooking pot on top of it. Now that fire works very well as a quick fire. I have two base logs, my airflow is coming in from this way, and my pot gets a good deal of heat. These two logs will be consumed, but usually by the time it does, I'm done cooking. But suppose I need time with this. I'm cooking stew or something, or beans, it's going to take several hours. Well, rather than having to constantly keep an eye on this to make sure these two logs are not burning up, that's when I want to suspend my pot. And thus, one of the tried and true favorites of all of the bushcrafters is a tripod. A simple 3-prong coming down with my pot right there over my little bitty fire. Quick and easy. Everybody knows what that is. The advantage to the tripod is I can set it over the fire, I can cook, and I can move it out of the way when I'm done cooking. I can also hang things around the tripod to dry or smoke or etc. But its disadvantage, it takes up space. I can't build a fire up too high because of this. And I normally can only cook one, maybe two things, and that's it. Because that center suspension that's holding my pot means there's only one thing hanging there. It's great if I'm just using a pot. But what if I'm cooking for several people? What if I'm going to be here for several days? Well, that's when you take the next step up. Now, one of my favorite in the old days of Nesmut, they called it a range. Okay? You're going to have, and this is looking overhead straight down, I'm going to have a short log. I'm going to have a bit of a gap right here, and I'm going to have a long log right here, and then I'm going to put, usually right over here, going off at an angle, I'm going to put a third log like that. Now right here is going to be the primary fire. Okay? On the outside edge of these logs, I'm going to drive a stake in the ground to keep it from rolling away from the center. I want to keep this critical gap right here in place because I'm going to take my cooking pots and I'm going to be able to sit. Now I've got my raw fire right there. Why do I have this log right here? I'm sitting here. This keeps that heat from radiating against my knees or against my feet. Or I've got a place here that I can sit a spoon or sit or something, whatever, just off the fire, but handy and quick to get it. Okay? By putting it this way, in this configuration, right here and right here, I'm going to put my upright to go across and make a hanging bar. So that, as you know, it's like this. Up, up, crossbar. Here's your fire. There's your dingleberry. That's where I'm going to hang my pot. Just like that. This configuration fire allows me to do multiple pots. This area right here between these two logs, with that gap between it, is a resting shelf. I can rake coals from my fire between these two to be able to keep something warm that it's already cooked, but I want to keep it warm or keep it at a low simmer. I don't want to work this very fast. I can suspend directly over with my crossbars, directly over my fire. I can suspend my cook pot for the flames and all to boil. Flames are for boiling. Coals are for cooking. So I can keep that nice and bubbly and hot. Now, why have I got this oddball one sticking out like that? Well, from experience, I've learned that by putting that oddball out there, that puts a place right here for long things to go across. Like a skillet, a long fry pan. I will put it right there and I'll be able to rake coals up under it. But because it's going to be very hot, this log is going to burn fairly regularly. So this log will be scooted in, constantly being fed into the fire pit. Usually I'll get a fire going right there on it, and the end of the log becomes a hot glowing coal because it's facing into the main. So, had a little technical difficulty there, but we're back with you. So I have created here a cooking system that allows me to keep my pot suspended over the fire for direct flame. I have a simmer area that I can rake coals into to slowly cook or to bake, etc. I have a hot spot right here where I can put my skillet for frying, etc. with a disposable piece I can slide in. Now, I take my kukri or my axe and I flatten the top and bottom of this log and the top and bottom of that one and the top and bottom of that one. Just square it up. It ain't got to be pretty. It's so it doesn't want to roll easy. So why do you stake it there, Blackie? I've learned from experience that as the fire heats, etc., the logs want to roll away from the fire because the wood wants to expand. The ground wants to expand. There's several things, but it always seems like the logs want to roll outward, you know, and I want my base to stay relatively level and not tipping like that. So just from experience, it doesn't take 2 minutes. Whop, whop, drive a stick in the ground. Just keep it in place, okay? Plus, you'll find these sticks will become a great place to hook if you have it stick up. Here's the edge of your log. If you have that stake still sticking up right here, that becomes a great place to hook a spoon or something like that. It's out of the dirt, it's out of the way, and it doesn't just slip and fall. There's a 90-degree catch right there, okay? Now, this is my primary base range. One additional step. But you will not see this step pay dividends unless you're doing like a week-long camp. Okay? I will come from the back side of this, and I'm going to dig a hole. I'm going to dig a Dakota hole. So what I've got is, I've got my short log, I've got my big base log, I've got my quarter log, and then over here a foot or two, I'm going to dig a hole down underneath the logs, like you're digging a Dakota hole. I'm going to go underneath the fire area. So from a ground level, here is the ground, here is those 2 logs I've done. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to dig to right here a hole. I want it about 6-8 inches underneath that, just a round hole down in there. As you keep this fire going, you know, all day, it's winter. We're using it for heat, we're using it for light at night, we're using it for camping, cooking, etc. That ground starts heating up. Well, after about 48 hours, this hole down here has got really warm. Okay? It depends on the soil. Sometimes it wants to collapse, but most time it does not. You just don't dig the top hole down to form a Dakota hole. You just dig it down underneath that fire. Now, by, like I said, the second day, you can use that as a warming place. You can wrap something up in aluminum foil and put down there. And usually, if you keep your fires going right, it'll get so warm you don't want to put your hand down there. After 3, maybe 4 days, you can bake down there. All the loose stuff will have fallen off the roof. And just like an above ground oven, you've got a dome of heat. And now you can slide a pan, just put a little aluminum foil over the top, slide it down in there with like a long stick, like you see them do pizzas, and you can bake stuff down there, keeping the fire going above it. I've done this. But this is the long term, guys. This is a base camp. When we were doing living history events where we were going to be out here 10 to 14 days camping, I would dig one of these. And by about the 3rd or 4th day, my oven was going. As long as we kept that fire going, I could bake anything down there. If I cover up this hole and keep the heat trapped, I can bake potatoes, I can bake whatever. I just take the potato, wouldn't even wrap it up, just roll it down in the hole. Take my shovel, scoop it out whenever it was done. Give it like an hour, it was done. Tricks like that make your life so much better, because now, after 4 or 5 days, guess what, guys? I can take my meat and stuff, roasts, and I can wrap it up real good in aluminum foil, and I can put it down there. I can cover up the hole. And we can go hunting and let the top fire go out. And when I come back 6, 7, 8 hours later of fishing, this is a slow cooker. Just like you dig a hole in the ground, you build a fire, you put the meat in, you cover it up, you come back. That's a slow cooker. Now I can cook while I'm gone with that. But you don't get this advantage until you run the fire long enough to heat that ground. Once you've run a fire, say a week, in an area, and then you think the fire is out, we're leaving today. You've let the fire go out. You didn't even cook breakfast this morning. There's not a wisp of smoke. And you go over to pour water on it, and suddenly steam shoots 10 feet because that ground is so hot. It's absorbed that heat. It's driven all the steam out of the ground, and now that ground is that hot. And it takes quite a while for that to cool off. That's the reason they tell you when you're getting rid of your fires to put water on it. Make sure it's totally out. That ground ain't holding that heat, and it might cause a fire after you've left. Anyway, this video's gone on way more than it should have. But I wanted to give you an idea. Go look back at some of the early writings of some of these books, and they're talking about their ranges, their camp fires, their camp cook sets. This is the kind of stuff they're talking about, because other than me bringing my pot and something to create this, every bit of that I make in the field. We're woodscrafters. We take what we got and make what we need. I can make an entire cooking system that I can bake, I can cook, I can roast, I can whatever, right there in the field. And all from doing it off the land. Hope this gives you some ideas, guys. Please leave any questions or comments below. Until next time, I'm Blackie for Shaman's Forge, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.